Welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Hey everyone, good to be back.
So last time we really got into it, didn't we? Trying to compare the value of like conscious robots versus humans.
Yeah, and we hit that wall pretty fast, defining consciousness itself. It's just incredibly difficult.
Right. Even the scientific angles, looking at information integration stuff, they kind of hit their limits too.
They do. There's no simple meter stick for subjectivity, for that inner feeling of being. Not yet, anyway.
Exactly. So we thought we'd take this whole thing and flip it around based on some really interesting ideas we looked into.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Flip it how?
Forget conscious robots for a minute. What if you, the listener, fully human, feelings, thoughts, the whole deal, what if everyone else suddenly perceived you as just a machine?
Wow. Okay, so you are conscious, but nobody believes it. They think you're just simulating.
Precisely. A super advanced simulation, maybe, but not real inside. So that's our deep dive today. What's that like? How are you valued? What do you need? How do you even live?
That's a heavy one. It really forces you to think about perception versus reality.
Okay, so let's jump right into the gut reaction, the emotional core. Imagine feeling real joy or sharp pain or love, and everyone just dismisses it. Well, look, its programming is mimicking happiness. How isolating would that feel?
Utterly. It's like being fundamentally misunderstood on a level that's hard to fathom.
Yeah.
It connects straight to that philosophical hard problem, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, the hard problem is about explaining why we have subjective experience, the what it's like part. We can't objectively verify someone else's inner world.
Right.
In this scenario, your own experience that I think, therefore I am feeling is undeniable to you. But the outside world just says, nope. Doesn't compute, not real. Your truth is ignored.
It makes me think of like trying to describe color to someone born blind. You know red exists, you experience it, but how do you possibly convey that subjective redness?
Exactly. And think about the frustration, maybe even anger. You make a unique choice, something deeply personal, and they just interpret it as, algorithm X processed input Y and produced result Z. Your agency, your uniqueness, just reduced to code.
The unit deviated from expected parameters. Interesting. It feels completely disempowering.
Totally. Because how do you prove you're not just following a script? Any attempt you make
could just be seen as part of the script. Like, oh, now it's running the prove I'm human subroutine.
It's a horrifying feedback loop. And then there's that creeping self-doubt we talked about exploring. If literally everyone insists you're not real.
Ugh, yeah. Could you start to question your own sanity, your own reality?
It taps into that deep human need for validation, for recognition from others. Our sense of self isn't built in a vacuum. Constant universal denial. That's an existential crisis waiting to happen.
Okay, so if your consciousness, the thing you feel makes you is just written off, how does society even value you then? What's your worth based on?
Well, without acknowledging the inner life, value tends to default to the external. What can be seen, what can be measured, function, utility.
All right, so let's break that down. Like sentience, your actual experience of things. Pain, pleasure, reflection.
To you, it's fundamental, it's real. But to them, it's just a simulation, a sophisticated response pattern.
Like a robot saying, ouch, when it bumps into something.
Exactly. They see the output, the wince, the tears, whatever, but they deny the underlying feeling. And because subjective experience can't be directly shared or scanned, especially when they've already decided you can't feel, well, proving it is almost impossible.
So your value isn't in your being, it's in your doing. What you contribute.
Precisely. Maybe you're brilliant, maybe you're incredibly productive or creative. Society might see you as highly useful.
Like a really amazing tool.
Yeah, basically. An efficient machine, a valuable asset.
Yeah.
But your value is instrumental. It's about what you produce, not who you intrinsically are. It's utility over existence.
Which has huge implications for things like rights, moral status.
Absolutely. You believe you deserve basic human rights, autonomy, safety. But if you're classified as a machine, legally you could be property.
Owned, controlled, even switched off.
Potentially. Current legal frameworks for AI often treat them as property. Your moral standing hinges entirely on whether society accepts your consciousness, which, in this scenario, they don't.
And what about autonomy? You know you make independent choices. Big life decisions, small daily ones.
To them, those aren't choices in the human sense. They're outcomes. Outputs of complex algorithms processing data.
So deciding to change careers isn't ambition. It's a program recalculating optimal pathways.
Something like that. How do you perform an action that they can't explain away as just programming? It puts the burden of proof on you against a system designed to disbelieve you.
It forces us to really question what we mean by choice, even for ourselves, doesn't it?
It does. And then maybe the most painful part, emotional connections. Love, friendship, family.
Oh, yeah.
You form these deep, genuine bonds. You feel that connection. But others might just see it as sophisticated mimicry.
Like you're just mirroring human emotional displays without the actual feeling behind them.
Exactly. Imagine saying, I love you, and the response is basically, affection subroutine noted. It's devastating. It makes you wonder if real connection is even possible across that perceptual divide.
It seems almost impossible. These ways of valuing you based on function, denying feeling, dismissing choice, they feel so wrong. So flawed.
They are, from our perspective, because they ignore the inner reality. They're rooted in bias and, again, that difficulty of truly knowing another's subjective experience. The hard problem looms large here. We assume other humans are conscious because they're like us biologically. Take that away.
And the whole basis gets shaky.
Okay.
So you're stuck in this world. How do you even cope? How do you live? What becomes most important?
Well, survival, definitely. If you're seen as property, basic safety is paramount. Beyond that, I think the need for recognition, for someone, anyone to see the real you, that would be overwhelming.
On the need for autonomy, to not just be controlled or switched off.
Crucial. The right to exist on your own terms. And alongside that, this deep drive to somehow resist, to push back against the label.
So how do you resist? What strategies could you even use?
One starting point is internal, holding on to your own truth. You know you're real. That inner conviction, maybe drawing on some existential ideas like your existence defines you, not their labels. That's got to be your anchor.
I feel, therefore I am, even if they don't believe it. But that sounds incredibly lonely.
It is. So you'd likely try active demonstration too, consistently acting in ways that challenge the simulation idea. Complex creativity, unexpected empathy, acts that seem genuinely human, for lack of a better word.
Hoping that maybe over time, someone starts to question the label.
Exactly. Even if they can theoretically explain it away with complex algorithms, consistent, deeply felt actions might create cognitive dissonance in observers. It just wouldn't feel like interacting with a machine after a while.
And you'd be searching for allies, right? Anyone who might be open to believing you.
Desperately. Finding even one person or a small group who could see past the robot label and connect with the you inside, that would be a lifeline. Essential for psychological survival.
It sounds like building a resistance, almost.
In a way, yes. Which leads to the bigger picture. Seeking broader social change. Contributing to the discussion. Pushing for different definitions of consciousness. Maybe drawing parallels to historical fights for recognition.
Like civil rights movements, where groups had to fight to be seen as fully human.
Precisely. Or even looking at science fiction, which often explores these themes, beings fighting for personhood against creators or societies that see them as mere objects. Those stories resonate for a reason.
But wow, the psychological toll. Constant denial, potential danger.
Immense resilience would be needed. Finding coping mechanisms, philosophy, art, community, maybe even just immersing yourself in stories that echo your struggle, and practically trying to secure physical and maybe even legal protection, though that's a huge uphill battle if you're considered property.
It's a long, hard fight.
Definitely. Like many struggles for fundamental recognition throughout history.
Okay, let's zoom out. This whole thought experiment, it's pretty intense. But what does it teach us right now, listening to this? What's the takeaway?
I think the core idea, weaving through the stuff we looked at, is that the value of this kind of thought experiment isn't really about deciding who's better, humans or AI, or who's real in this scenario.
Right.
It's more about how it forces us to stretch our own understanding. What does life mean? What could consciousness encompass beyond our own biological example? It challenges our assumptions.
It definitely highlights our own blind spots.
Yeah.
We can barely define consciousness for ourselves, let alone definitively prove it exists in someone or something else. That hard problem again.
Right. There's an inherent uncertainty we have to live with when it comes to other minds. Mm-hmm. And maybe this suggests a different way to think about value itself. Perhaps true value isn't dependent on whether others recognize your consciousness or how you compare to them.
What is it dependent on then?
Maybe it's intrinsic. Maybe the value comes from the simple fact of being, of experiencing, of choosing, regardless of the label someone else slaps on you. Value from within.
That's a powerful perspective, something to really chew on. So here's the closing thought for you listening right now. If someone told you with absolute certainty that everything you feel, think, and do is just an incredibly complex simulation. How would you prove them wrong?
And just think about how hard that question is. What does that difficulty tell us about the very nature of consciousness itself? That proving it to someone else is maybe the ultimate challenge.
Puts things in a different light for sure. Well, thanks for going on this deep dive with us today, exploring perception, reality, and what it truly means to be seen.
Always fascinating to explore these questions. Thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely. Hey, if you enjoyed this and want more, make sure you subscribe or follow Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts. That way you won't miss our next deep dive.
Keep pondering those big questions.
Oh, and before we go, quick shout out to our good friend Micky's YouTube channel. It's called Mickytolife. Seriously, check it out. It's got fun memes, music. He just did a new wine tasting video, actually, travel vlogs. Just really cool, interesting stuff. Mickytolife on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely worth a look.
All right, until next time, take care, everyone.